We here at VibeWire are super excited about the election. I've been working as one of the project coordinators for Election Wire, and I've noticed a few things along the way. So I've decided to develop this piece to understand what youth and adults think about the ideas of leadership and generational differences. In order to further develop these ideas, I have created a few questions that I think map out some key concepts when it comes down to generational differences. First, I want to know, from both sides of the coin, how do we get youth more involved? I also want to know how to connect generations and what sort of a difference it can make for politics. And then finally, I'd like to gauge the reactions of both young and adult to understand what the qualities of a good leader are and why that will be important for this coming election. Having developed these thoughts, the one question that comes to my mind more than anything else is it the responsibility of the people to come together to better society, or should it be the government's responsibility to bring people together?
Young people have got to be somehow influenced by older people, but I don't know how you do it. As you say, they're informed young people. That's only a little percentage. You know? Like, it's not enough to kind of change things. Young people are smart. Of course they're smart. I just don't think enough of them think enough at the moment about where Australia's heading. I think they're just kind of more interested in the family thing. I really do.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, with a compulsory voting system, a lot of people do literally just follow their parents' line. I heard a great line on the weekend that said, you know, you don't dance like your parents, so why vote like them? A lot of people do follow what they've been told in the family home, and that's quite powerful. It's not the fact that that may be wrong, but that's an issue. Obviously, they're getting sort of informed for the wrong reasons. How do we change that? It's obviously through education. That's the only way to do it. I mean, with the compulsory system, we want people to go into the ballot room knowing what the parties stand for and why, and how that will affect them, but also how it will affect everyone. We don't just want young people voting Labor because they may be more progressive, and we don't want just old people voting Liberal because that's the Conservative Party and they just want things to stay the same or whatever.
So I think, you know, there's a mixture of the intergenerational stuff, but there's also genuine shifts. So we need to be aware of the fact that things have changed, and young people need to be aware that things it can be different. There's got to be a lot more conversations about giving people options, about making people think change is possible, because I suspect that a lot of young people don't think change is possible.
And old people?
And a lot of old people have given up. So the combination means that we need to get them both enthused about the fact that change is still possible and that we can do something. Because if people feel they can do something, they put the time in.
I think in order to show the government what the citizens are interested in and what's important to them, we just need to become more engaged in the political process and become more informed and read the newspapers, because I think things like that goes a long way. If we pay attention to the policies, they can gauge our responses, and therefore in the future they can respond accordingly. I think in order to show the government what the citizens are interested in and what's important to them, we just need to become more engaged in the political process and become more informed and read the newspapers, because I think things like that goes a long way.
I think that young people are often portrayed and constructed as being quite idealistic, you know, focusing on the positives. And certainly we've got lots of energetic young people, lots of young people with a vision and passion for politics, and that breaks that stereotype that all youth are apathetic, and you know, some are, but there are lots of people who are energetic as well. I think what political parties need to do, and I'm certainly intent on doing this, and I'm sure White Roy is, in Liberal National Party candidate in Longman in Queensland, is channel those energies in a very productive way so that youth voices can be heard and that we can tailor our policies to younger Australians so that their energies are for a good cause, and so that they don't become so disenchanted and disillusioned with our political process. So it's always, I think election day is the best way to send a message, but there are plenty of other alternative ways of doing it as well. You can put your hand up to run for a seat. That's a time-consuming process. Not everyone's willing to do that. You can write a blog, you can start up a group, you can join the range of youth groups out there. So there are ways to be engaged, and it's just, you know, making an active effort to read up on policies and let your interests be known. Eva Cox said some really interesting things about about how good policy gets up and about how people can affect change and about where the responsibility lies, whether it's talking about politicians, whether it's talking about an informed and active, motivated citizenry, or whether it's talking about media industry figures, journalists who are able to hold politicians to account. And I think that relationship is something that is critical, and you might have, for example, a journalist who reports upon policy, who informs the citizenry, and a citizenry who then is able to critique after the work done by a media organisation in an educated way the policies of a particular political party, are then able to perhaps make educated decisions and vote with their feet, protest, demonstrate, all that sort of thing. A lot of people talk about the Australian citizenry as being a particularly apathetic one, and I think that's where people like Bernard Keane come in and say that this election campaign, the fact that it's so boring, the fact that the big issues have been sidelined, is actually our fault, because we haven't done enough to say to the politicians and to say so in the public sphere that these things are important to us and that we won't tolerate them being sidelined.
I think that it's the responsibility of the Australian people to communicate better, to get in touch with what each other really think, and deliver to the government a unanimous voice from the Australian people rather than bits and pieces. I think then it's really important for the government which gets elected to then listen to each part of that voice, youth, parents and the older vote, to deliver back to them what they asked for.
It is up to us to come together. However, I think it's the government to lead us, and to lead us well, not into problems with other countries, just lead us into a better future.
There needs to be the balance of both understanding the population's interests, but at the same time being able to shape those towards the best solution, towards the best balance. So essentially, what we need is for the people to show the government where they want to go, and the government to help people show them how they can get there.
This has been Dan Talwar for Election Wire.